Mr. Faheem Sikandar, who is currently serving as Additional Commissioner, Federal Bureau of Revenue, Metric History Investigation, Canada. He has also served as a lecturer at the Department of English, University of Peshawar, and his stint in the English department, where he was also pursuing his MPhil, was cut short by his eventual shift to the civil services. And I need not to say that he's working at a very important department, जहाँ पे आप में majority तो बच्चे हैं, लेकिन अनकरीब सबकी ज़रूरत पड़ सकती है उस डिपार्टमेंट की, क्योंकि FPR से तो किसी का छुटकारा आजकल नहीं है, ठीक है ना? So before I actually begin questioning him, आवाज़ ठीक है ना माइक के बगैर? Yes. ठीक है ना? हाँ. ठीक है. That's the best part of being a teacher. माइक की ज़रूरत नहीं. So before I formally start questioning him, I will read out a short passage from the book. It's a little difficult passage to digest, but that is what our reality has been, and I hope it doesn't be it again. Seeing life taken away so easily made him, and he's the protagonist of the novel. आप में से जिन सबने पढ़ा हुआ है उनको तो they'll be able to follow the context. Seeing life taken away so easily made him lose sense of living and dead. Those people scattered on the floor were full of life, moving around just like him, and within seconds, everything was over. It could have been anyone at that place, at the wrong place, at the wrong juncture of time. He looked at his hands, full of others' blood, and wondered whether he was living or dead. He doubted his own existence amidst the dead. The reason I just read out this passage was because while I was reading the novel, I thought that the title has come on very early. I think 5th chapter hai ye, and then there's a part 2 to the Amidst the Dead as well. Therefore, my first question is that can you begin discussing the process of creating the book's world? What inspired its geography, its culture, and the overall setting?
Thank you, Anush. I'm so rather indebted to you and to all the people here. I'm delighted to see many faces who know me already, and more delighted to see those faces which have come to know about me after the book. So, it's a two-way road, and book writing is, honestly telling you, is a difficult thing, despite the fact, even if it's your passion. What I was writing, it was my passion. Literature and, novel writing was my passion. But you have to burn your midnight oil and spend time on that, and then the publication process. There's a whole lot of things. So as for the book's world, of course, I wanted the setting to be Peshawar, because it is primarily contemporary fiction. And contemporary fiction is basically about the real life world. It's not postmodernism or modernism, it's contemporary fiction. Contemporary fiction is about real life with which you can correlate. The techniques I have used in this novel, you will say there are bouts of magic realism. Then there are, third person narrative, first person narrative coming, and it's multiple voices technique I've used, and the other things. But the settings primarily are Peshawar. Why I wrote it, there is no reason for it. Because writing is my passion and I can't, live without it. I'm writing all the time or reading. So this was the thing that eventually I thought that I should be putting it to the print. It took me time, about more than 10 years. 10 years was the time when I finished it, but then it was the publication process, and then it took time, and this flap, this cover. This cover has its own significance. It was designed after a long struggle. If you could see that, this is a mixer, a double plate, and on the face of it, it is the famous Peshawar monument, City House.
Yeah.
How the printer merged it, and the graphic designer involved in that is Shahriyar bin Mukhtar, is a graduate from NCA, and now he's working in Dubai, UAE. So it was a difficult process. So it took me time for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I was happy to read it because in my entire reading career, spanning over a couple of years now, it was the first novel set in Peshawar. That is what really made me so happy कि चलो Peshawar में, because I remember when I was doing my PhD, I read a book, namesake है कि कोई ऐसा नाम था उसका, and हाँ जंपा लहरी की, and उसमें जो the protagonist था, he was going to पता नहीं Stanford or one of these universities, and at that time my university was in Washington DC, I was at American University, and I said, why doesn't any of the protagonists go to American University, you know? So if I ever write a novel, he's going to be from American, or she is going to be from an American university, but it was way better to see a novel set in Peshawar. Because yes, Peshawar has off and on been in news, but not for very good reasons. Before I move on to the next question, I am going to read another line, and those of you who know Faheem will know why I'm reading that line. And so, you know, that is what my question is going to be, and those of you who don't will find out why I read these lines. And this again is the protagonist who's talking to the female protagonist, I think. Yes, I have been quite a collector. I have got Shepherds, Parkers, and a Mont Blanc in my collection, he responded. Yeah. So my next question with that regard is for him, that how far your own professional, your academic, and your own personal background went into the writing, the creation of this book, its setting, its themes, and its characters?
Prior to answering this question, I will show you this. This is Parker's sonnet. Okay?
So anybody who doesn't understand why I asked the question or why I read the lines.
You know, I'm fond of these things, right? In debut fiction, it happens that your own personal experiences comes into the fore and the characters are commingled into it. There are reasons for that. Of course, my own, personal life was, I won't say directly involved in that, but it was an eclectic process in which I selected different materials from the part of life and then put them there. As for academics, fiction was my passion. Of course, I've been writing fiction more and more. And then there was other thing that you asked, that the influences in the debut fiction. It happens that people try to correlate with you, your protagonist, but honestly, it is not so, because he is the other person. I have tried to give one thing which could be in this novel specifically. He is the ideal of civil service. If you see that he is the person that civil servants can aspire for. This usually doesn't happen in the society. It is not happening. Civil servants are quite converse to what is basically they are supposed to be doing. But, I wanted him to be like that. And those people are, of course, being disliked in the civil service as well. This is unfortunate. But SN is like that, and that's why he is special, SP special investigation. It's a sort of in our terminology, in the officers' terminology, we call it khade line posting. He's a khade line officer. Why he's a khade line officer? Because he follows the rules and he goes by the book. Honest is a very generic term I use. What is honest basically? This is, when you get into the thing, you come to know what honest is, truly. It's not like that you don't get the bribe money. Honest is being much more than that. When you get to the seat and sit there. It's a very difficult thing. Now, this is for the book. Of course, my characters are eclectic. I can't say that I have put just one person inspired from him or her and then put him there. No, it's not like that. It's an eclectic process. I have taken, to draw my character, I have taken the different characteristic, like Ada, if you see, she is an embodiment of an Eastern girl, but at the same time, she shows the converse of it.
Can I just sort of interject in the middle? There's another line that I want to read as to what Faheem was just saying. Whereas such type of officers, he's talking about the protagonist of course, whereas such type of officers could be a headache for a hackneyed bureaucracy.
Yes.
They were highly beneficial for the public for whom they were being recruited. Yes. And by the way, those of you who are friends with Faheem on Facebook, or those of you who have a WhatsApp, sort of share his WhatsApp number, by the way, the protagonist is a pluviophile as well.
Pluviophile, it just happened. Because I love rains, I couldn't stop it.
Yeah, but the protagonist is a pluviophile as well.
Pluviophile as well.
Alright, so I'm trying to make a point here.
Yeah.
Is it just coincidental or?
I've told you one thing, that this happens basically when you are writing your debut fiction. My other fiction, which is be coming soon,
Wait, we'll talk about that. You just talk about it.
so I'm trying to just put it that way, that in debut fiction it happened. If you see that Charles Dickens, David Copperfield, or Mohsen Ahmed, the Smoke, that character of David, you know,
Yeah.
it has.
This is my next question. That what are his influences?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that is my next question.
Okay.
And you can just continue.
Okay, the point is that influences were many, inspirations were many. I'd start with Charles Dickens. He's one of my most favorite. I started when I was of my son's age, just one Ryan, and I used to Charles Dickens novel. Ryan, hello. So you know, I started reading Dickens. It was a relief for me. Honestly, telling you, when he yesterday told me that, Daddy, I don't like school.
Smart.
Yes.
Reading Dickens at that age, okay.
You know, he asked me that thing, Daddy, I don't like the school. And I just answered him back, same here. So, you know, we just manage. छुट्टी करनी है ना, तो मैं फिर इसके साथ मिलकर छुट्टी करा लेता हूँ कि यार मामा को मैं कह दूँगा, ठीक है, दोनों फिर मिलकर छुट्टी करते हैं, ठीक है, मैं नहीं करता, इसको मैं करवा देता हूँ, क्योंकि अब मैं स्टेज पे नहीं हूँ, you know, पहले करते थे शायद. So, you know, it happens. Influences were many. Dickens were at the first stage, because there cannot be such a good writer whom I always regard and I keep on reading whenever I am in, you know, in a dejected mood as well. I take out a book of Pickwick Papers or Great Expectation. It's a consistent inspiration, I would say. Then there were many other authors recently. Graham Greene, 20 years ago, End of the Fair. There cannot be any book better written than End of the Fair as a novel. End of the Fair is my consistent inspiration. I don't know how that book happened to me, and you know, about 22 years ago I read that book, and still I keep on reading it.
So that happened to us in the MPhil class. Okay.
You know, it happened more to me, na? Okay.
अब वो और बात है, but that's why I just wanted to give you a
But it's a
reminder.
wonderful book, na?
Yeah, it's a good.
That's a wonderful book. There's no doubt about that. And then lately, you have authors like George Saunders. George Saunders is just kidding that someone is calling me.
No, you can't answer the call.
I cannot
I was
answer.
about to request others to turn off their
I am
put their phone
turning
on the
it
mobile
off.
mode, on the flight mode. I have already done mine, so please you do. Sorry, the teacher mode comes out.
No, I am supposed not to be doing that, but this happened. Okay. So what I was saying that this thing.
The influences.
Influencer. George Saunders. George Saunders is one of those authors which I can say that he really impressed me. He's 2017 Booker's Prize winner, that for Lincoln in the Bardo. And that book, when I started reading, for the first 10 chapters, I put the book down and then said, is he making a fool of me? You know, is he making a fool of me? Does he think that we are stupid enough that I don't know fiction? And he kept on going that. And I didn't like that way. 10 chapters straight. My point is that when I go for a book or a novel, I don't go for the reviews. I go for the book first, make my own opinion, and then read the reviews. Because if you read the reviews first, you make an opinion. That's not a good thing.
And
So,
sometimes the reviews are very bad.
very, very bad, and they are very strange people doing these things. So,
Right.
then I started reading back that book, and at the 10th chapter, at the 11th chapter, I came to know what's happening. And then it was heart-shattering. I was unable to read that book. I was trying to put away that book. I just didn't want to see that book again. But, you know, it took me full 6 months to read that book chapter by chapter. It was a very difficult book to read. You know, the agony, the pathos, the plight, the misery, and the issues he was facing. The agony of a big man is as big as himself. Abraham Lincoln is a big man. He is not an ordinary person, a great person. He changed America. And it's the story of one night that he was having a sick son in his home. He was suffering from typhoid at the, upper story of the building. And down there are people sitting there discussing the Civil War, his Confederates, the war is going on. He's a, politician. He's, waging that war, and he won that war as well. And when that night was spent, He managed everything, his son was dead. And you know, the story starts with the scene that there is a guard, a watchman in the cemetery, in the graveyard, and he is seeing in the night a tall man coming to a grave, digging up the grave and taking out a little boy and hugging him and weeping him. That is the crux of the story. It shatters you. Now, these type of authors are inspirations, of course, George Saunders and Graham Greene. Just to tell you the point, this type of fiction is not being written here. This is the apex, I would say, like Graham Greene or this Saunders. Even Stephen King, if you have seen The Shawshank Redemption, the movie many people have seen, and the One Green Mile. You must have seen those movies. These are basically novels. So these were all my inspirations.
So for him as a writer, how do you decide on what type of narration style to follow? Like, how do you?
That is difficult. That is difficult to decide. But you know, it happens suddenly. I don't decide it actually, to be honest. When this novel I started writing, that is back in 2009 somewhere. When I started, the first paragraph I written, it started with third person. There was a very loud bang. I was sitting in my place and the night at 12 or 1 o'clock, there was a loud bang and there was rain and thunder. In the first chapter, the rain was smashing hard. It started with there. So it was understood that I was supposed to be writing it in the third person. But again, then to narrate the characters, I use multiple voices, like I am S and I am Ada. For my second novel, I am going for the first person narrative. Like, I am this, I am that, and the person himself is narrating.
See, so that's my point. Like you say that the narration style just comes to you. But whenever we as students of literature try to interpret or deconstruct, we don't see that it has come naturally. I just wonder if somebody works on your novel, what are they going to say, you know? Because we think that novels or writing fiction is a very thoughtful process. It's a very, very conscious process. It's not like, you know, uttering a tapa or writing a folk song or a folk story. It goes through so many edits.
Yes, it goes through many edits. It was
Right.
troublesome.
Yeah, and I remember when I was, I think the day before yesterday, I was reading the writer's note again, where you said that how you would come from office, just jot down a few things and then go back to work, and then whenever you would get time. So, you know, as a researcher, of course, I'm not a creative writer. But as a researcher, for me, it is very important to have a certain, a certain string that goes through your writing. And for that, I need consistency. Like I always, when I'm talking to students, I tell them that particularly those who are doing their MPhils or PhDs, I say that please just don't sort of give yourself a break, because your string of thought gets disconnected and it takes a lot of time to come back to that string of thought. So as a writer, where you have to edit, how does the narration sort of become a natural style? It's just a personal curiosity.
You know, I would just try to give an example of a poet here, because it would be more appropriate.
Okay.
You know, it would be easier for me to dilate in that way. You know, Urdu poets, there are many Urdu poets and English poets. If in fact the couplet which you call sher in Urdu, it happens. If it doesn't happen, and if you write it, then you just lose that spirit. Trust me, it's like that.
Coleridge could write a whole poem.
It goes on like that. And Ghalib says something like that. ठीक है ना? तो ये अगर वो करना शुरू कर दे ना, but why it is happening? He is tuned with that. There cannot be any other Ghalib.
Faheem, there is a difference in writing poetry and
Prose, yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that's why I was asking about it.
I've written in the author's note, I would always write when I feel the urge. Otherwise, I won't be writing. It comes in a flow. Suddenly, I'm sitting and then I feel that there is something coming and I start scribbling it. I type it later on. I don't type it at the moment.
Right.
It's not like that I've done it and it's done. I just write at that moment, leave it, see it next day, and then see what it was.
Yeah, it's always good to distance yourself from your writing for a while.
Yeah.
It was sort of great reading the novel, and those of us who have read it, I really liked it. It was very fast-paced, sort of keeping in view the length of the novel. But I just felt that you were sort of going back and forth a lot to Jungian psychology particularly.
Jungian psychology.
You were giving a lot of literary allusions.
Yes.
And as a reader, I thought that isn't it unfair for a writer to take for granted that anybody who reads my novel will be familiar with Jung and will be familiar with literary sort of allusions
Yes.
and different sort of literary devices that we have.
Yes, yes. Okay, you can ask them, the student of literature, how many of you can know Jung or Freud? You know that.
Carl
You know.
Jung.
बाकी खवातीन जो बैठी हैं
नहीं, तो सारे
वो मास्टर्स बैठी हैं, मैं तो उनसे टीचर है मेरी, हमारा वो नहीं बोली।
हाँ, उसकी तो PhD है।
वो सब PhD है।
नहीं, यहाँ पे ये भी नादिया भी टीचर है, ऐसी बात नहीं है। Even your
Musarat is there.
हाँ।
Musarat is also there, and Shima is my class
But
fellow.
why are you taking for granted कि जिसने literature किया होगा वही किताब पढ़े?
The point is not like that. It's not like that. You know, there are two sides of a novel or a fiction, or media is the same. If it's a fiction, it's a film, it's a movie. There are two aspects of it. One is the entertaining aspect. The other is the art aspect. Right? Isn't it so? So the art aspect is the place where the author or the creator has the freedom to play his art, to show it to them that I know this thing, that I'm going to depict my character in that particular way. And the entertainment part is how gripping is the story, how hooking is the plot, how the people correlate with the plot. Was the story good enough that it can hold the readers? That is again the craft of the author. So how do you commingle your art and your craft? That is the success of being a novelist. There are two things. You have to make them go away along, together. You can't skip other, because if you just do away with art, then your novel becomes a pulp fiction, and it is not worth
It
it.
doesn't remain fiction actually,
Yeah.
because we deal with things that are hardcore reality, and I think the art part actually makes it a literary piece.
Jungian and Freudian psychology is very important, even if you deny it. I've answered this question erstwhile as well to Liberty. People were asking me this question. That again, you would be interpreting things with Jungian and Freudian. No, I said, if I don't, other people would do. There was a review on my book on some Instagram, so it's on my Facebook as well. The reviewer said very strange thing, which I was thinking as well, but I didn't say it explicitly. And she said it. If you leave it to the people then.
Yeah.
It's the 20th century literature. In the 20th century literature, this book which you are holding, Anush, is not my book anymore.
That's true. So that
It's
is
yours
what I
book.
was saying. Why did you have to sort of label it?
I'm not labeling it. I'm putting it in a way that you can see it through. My way of depicting is that, like Asan is having that problem. Serena is having that problem. Serena is a very important character. That she is having a dual personality. She is schizophrenic, and she has a persona, and she has a shadow. She has two aspects. Now, how would you interpret it better than Jung? Only Jung can do it. Otherwise, you would see that person, यार ये कैसा आदमी है, ठीक है, सुबह एक होता है, शाम को एक बन जाता है. इस बंदे ने मेरे साथ किया ये प्रॉब्लम, यार अच्छा भला आदमी था. प्रॉब्लम अच्छा भला नहीं था, उस बंदे के साथ साइकोलॉजिकल प्रॉब्लम था.
See, I'll just like to put a little anecdote here. I switched disciplines, all right? So from literature, I moved on to anthropology and gender studies and all that. So the field of anthropology was little new for me, and we had a course in critical theory. And I was sort of taught all those theorists who were primarily Marxist. My background was in literature. I had gone with Hegel and Jung and all these people. When I went there, I was not very sure. And one of the assignments that we had to do, I'm just trying to make a point here, was that we had to pick a cultural, some kind of a cultural tradition, and we had to apply, there were certain theorists, so we had to pick a theorist and apply that theory. Now my problem was, I wasn't sure, the cultural tradition that I had picked up was Urbal. शादियों में नहीं होता, जिसमें they would come and they would cut a lock of hair from, the boy would cut a lock of hair, and that's in fact, it's actually the rite to passage that he can come and meet the girl. And I wanted to look at it from a very gendered perspective. So I applied the theorist that was given to us, but I wasn't sure कि whatever I've interpreted is correct or not. This is such a nice practice, so मैं तो कुछ इसको deconstruct करके कुछ का कुछ बना दिया. So I went to my professor and I asked him. I said, well, I've done this and that. How do I know that I've interpreted it correctly? And I remember he just looked through his glasses and he said to me that what I remember of your introduction in the class is that you said that you have a master's in English. And I said, yes, I do. And he said, well, how do you know that you are interpreting Shakespeare correctly? He's dead. You can't even ask. That was a real push for me. That gave me a lot of confidence. That, okay, as long as I can validate my interpretation, I'm good to. So, taking it on from there,
Okay.
all right, my next question, although I'm still not convinced.
I would just add to it, this deconstruction and Yatyahada theory. There is a Marxist, or you would say, corporate interpretation of Macbeth, and then there is a Freudian interpretation
Of
of.
course, that is what we teach students.
That's true, because literature, a piece of literature is not restricted to that particular space and time.
Exactly.
It becomes the domain of the people, and it becomes an asset, a heritage for the people.
Yeah, so you don't sort of challenge me. I can give it a very gendered and a sociological interpretation. All
You
these
can.
characters.
Because I can't stop you.
Okay.
There are people saying many other things.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, that was just a joke.
Yeah.
Faheem, luckily you are the second author that I am meeting face to face. The first one was Mohsen Hamid, that I met after he had, the Reluctant Fundamentalist.
Really good author, really good author.
Very famous, so I was lucky that he came to our university and I managed to ask him some of the questions I wanted to. Now, this has always been my we can't meet most of the authors, okay? So we just interpret stuff. I want to know, what was your sort of developing process for the protagonist? Did you draw inspiration from personal experiences or other literary works? And how do you decide to name the characters? I've always wondered, how do novelists or writers name characters?
Yeah, this is
The protagonist,
okay.
how he was developed, and then finally all the names, and with that even the title.
I'm basically being blamed for it. I take this question with a pinch of salt. That Asan character was I just wrote him. I'm a novelist. I'm an artist. I feel like I'm just an artist like any other artist. I created a character and people were drawing it upon me. So much so that I was a bit offended when one of the reviewers just said that this is an autobiographical note in that. In fact, it was not. You see, I created a character for certain reason. I take it as it's a contemporary fiction. I take it from real life. Asan is a very common name and a very beautiful name as well. Ada is some name which I really liked. And she had that character of when you just imagine her, she's that modest, beautiful girl with which anyone can fall in love. Or she is the most fun person to marry. But Serena is not. She's the converse of it. And that Western outlook she has having. The name depicts that.
Okay.
But not all names have that, connotations.
I thought Ada was Ada because she had Ada.
Yes, she had. She had.
So you see, that's what I'm saying. How do we get interpretations and what are writers thinking?
When I thought about
And it wasn't Ada Jafri.
Ada Jafri is such a fine poet. Yes, of course. Yes, she's
Okay.
such a fine
But
poet.
that, in fact, you just touched upon what I wanted to ask, because I think for me it is very amazing that Ada and Serena seem to be very different, rather very opposing characters, where you can see ironically, the serenity of Ada as opposed to a very complicated character of Serena.
Yes.
So as a writer, could you just tell us that how you managed to create such opposing characters?
That was difficult. In fact, it was difficult, especially creating Serena. Serena was a very challenging character for me. And you see, the real plight was of Asan. That how there are lessons in life, how life goes on smoothly, and then you are being thrashed. Your life is just topsy-turvy. You are with such a very, very tranquil type of a relationship with one of your age mate, and then suddenly something happens, you lose her, and then someone else comes in your life. You in your mind try to correlate that person with the previous person, which in fact is not right, and the other person is a real challenge, and then you get a thrashing, and then he was consistently getting a thrashing from her.
See, since you said that how, there's this one person and then the protagonist keep on sort of making a comparison to a past person that had come in his life, I could just see this, and I'm sure those of you who have read the novel, that one of the one of the themes that I could see was sort of the pendulating, the oscillating protagonist who was sometime in the present and then he was in the past and then he was in the present, and I could just feel there's an oscillation. You see, and although you sort of say that how Serena did have her psychological issues, I thought the protagonist himself was very Hamletish sort of hamartia that he had.
Yes.
Where, it was difficult for him to decide. And you see, I think I was trying to be, I just hope that, I can find those passages, but I can just see a big sort of I think, and it's Ada who says this to him, that you seem to be quite an introvert. She remarked with a smile. Really? He chuckled. But the job you have chosen for yourself is an out-and-out extrovert affair, isn't it so? She asked. And this is what the protagonist then sort of thinks about it. He says, an exact and apt contrast.
Yes.
A clash between the inner self and the face that one puts up for the world. A war between persona and shadow, as Jung would have said it. He replied slowly while keeping his eyes on the road ahead. His answer was more like a monologue, and she felt as if she was not the audience. See, you mention it yourself as if she was not the audience, because she says, who is Jung, by the way?
Yes. Yes. And then, you see, it's a very important point you have made, but there are certain things which are left to the readers. There
You
were
have told them it's Jung.
No, I am talking about SN.
Right, okay.
Like, Ada has a problem, na? SN is a very studious type of all, the students in the class are
CSS किया हुआ studious तो हो गए, वरना माइकल
But Ada was different now. She was not. There are students who just read for the course and pass the exam, and there are students who take it as a passion.
Right.
So that's why she asked him, and then he tried to,
No,
make a
but
witty
just
remark.
look at this. There's another passage. Okay, this is from a little earlier on. The call of duty should be your priority.
Yes.
Okay, again, as he heard a voice admonishing him. But I yearn for her. I've been desperate to see her. Now that the time has come and all things are settled, should I betray her? Would my heart forgive me for that? He pleaded. People are dying. Their lives and properties are at risk. Can you afford such an indulgence? A trice. Would you forgive? Would you forgive yourself for that? I'm not an angel. I have my shortfalls. He stubbornly resisted. This is a criminal negligence on your part.
Yeah. It's
Again,
now.
self-dialogue.
No, he's in. No. This is not a self-dialogue. I am in his mind now. This is stream of consciousness, you can say. He's not speaking to anyone here. It is in his mind. It is the stream of consciousness. Ma'am, would you please mind closing that door? I'm a bit distracted. Thank you. You get me?
Yeah. Is it a stream of consciousness, or do you think it is more like the Hamlet kind of a monologue?
No, of course.
Should I do this or soliloquy? Yeah.
No, it is there. Soliloquy is there, but in his mind. If he's speaking like that to himself, so then he's not okay. He's sitting in his office. What would the people say? So it is in his mind. So that I would say.
Yeah, okay. No, it is because in the book it is even in italics, So
Yes, it is in
that
italics.
perhaps is trying to tell you that how the dialogue of course is going on in his mind and keeping the context as well. That's true. So, sort of coming out from the world of the book itself, I was just wondering that how do you see the book's themes reflecting or challenging the current society?
That is very important. That is a very important question, which the people should take it seriously. And, I have put it in this way. There are many things coming up in this novel because it's about our own city, our own country. Even if you take it on a very cursory look, when you get to that big Ben or, city house and the Ghandaghar or clock tower, you just go there and see what's happening over there. In a very subtle way, I have remarked that there was a mash of electricity wires and people are, stealing the electricity, and this is a dangerous place, dangerous road to live, not for terrorism, but for any general reason, with the reason which you cannot think of. This place, you have seen City House. If you have seen Clock Tower, you just go along the Clock Tower. The last house over there, before that masjid is, which masjid is there over there? The main over there. No, Qasim Ali Khan is in Qissa Khani. No, this is not. There's a famous mosque there, and in front of mosque there is my ancestral place. Now there is a plaza. In 2003, there was a blast over there. Not out of terrorism, but just for these eateries and food outlets. One of the slanters blasted, and it was a big place, more bigger than this whole compound, and it was burned to ashes. This is happening on daily basis. And then the problem of minorities in your society. How do you treat them? The specific word you use for them, and how they come to play a role in your society. They are always poor people. And then my publisher objected at me that you are playing a stereotype. मतलब एक hackneyed things दे रहे हैं. मैंने कहा, I'm not putting a stereotype. It is there in your society. It is happening every day in your society. You treat them like this. And the other thing, which is most important, the level of a civil servant, of an officer, as compared to a teacher. When I did this teaching thing, Anush was there, senior to me. She is my class fellow. We did masters together, and then I was selected as a lecturer in 2003. I was so happy and delighted over that. I'm lecturer in English department, and I was living a very peaceful life. And people were not impressed. But when this CSS thing came up, people changed. मेरे वो रिश्तेदार जो शायद मुझसे कभी मिलना भी पसंद नहीं करते थे, वो घर आके मुबारकबाद दे रहे थे. मैं सच कह रहा हूँ आपसे.
So is this a message for most of the young people?
I'm telling you, I'm trying to tell you something. What is the place of a teacher in your society? जब आप अपने टीचर को, when you put your society in that way, that a commissioner, that a superintendent of police, that particular person who is in civil service is important person, and a PhD in English literature and archaeology or something else.
चल पड़ा है ये भी CS officer
or a superintendent of police is very important person. अच्छा यार उस्ताद ये हो ना खाली खैर है, CSS क्यों नहीं करते बेटा? तो अरे यार वो कर तो रहा है ना, और क्या करे, कोई टीचर भी तो बनेगा ना. Now you put that teacher in your society at that particular level, this exactly will happen to your society.
So how do you challenge all this?
No,
you have challenged it?
The job of the author or a literature is to show people the mirror. The function of literature is to show them mirror. If you like your reflection, fine. You want to break it, your choice, or reform yourself. Think about it. The teacher is as important as any bureaucrat. A teacher is as important as any person who is doing some wonders in society. Because if you just don't give him that regard, your new generation will be lost. What type of teacher you will be having? Only the leftovers will come. And this is not a good thing. The bright people should come to join teaching. You can say that, why didn't, Mujib Saab, my chairman, English department, is always angry with me. You can't say such things. Kyun, sir? He said, you opted it yourself. You were bright, we selected you. And now you are saying this? आपको lecture देने आते हैं, उनके बात ये नहीं है, sir. The point is, this is the mindset of your society. Unless and until you change that mindset, that a teacher is as important as a commissioner, nothing will happen.
Tell your FBR people also, na? The kind of tax that they impose on us.
अच्छा ये थोड़ी off the record बात करता हूँ, यहाँ से मैं निकल जाऊँगा ना
Off the record नहीं है, ये record हो.
अच्छा ये मैं record नहीं होना चाहिए कि फिर यहाँ से जाके ना.
हमारे control में नहीं है, ये control में है.
ये हम पे professional tax लगाएंगे.
अच्छा वो आपकी एक colleague थी, अभी शायद नहीं आई है, उन्होंने मुझे कल कहा भी था वो.
अच्छा नाम ना लो.
नाम नहीं लेता. तो वो उनसे मेरी कुछ 20 साल से बातचीत नहीं हुई थी. तो उनको कोई नोटिस आ गया टाइप का. तो वो इस तरह मेरे दफ्तर दाखिल हुई कि जैसे बरसों से मुझे जानती थी। और मेरे साथ डीसी था, उन्होंने कहा सर ये वो मेरे से मतलब डिप्टी कमिश्नर जूनियर ऑफिसर ही के मतलब केम ओवर में खैरियत है। तो उसने कहा सर एक मैडम आपसे मिलना चाह रही है। मैंने कहा बुलाइए। तो कहता है मैंने कहा क्यों खैरियत? का सर कोई टैक्स पेयर है, हमने नोटिस दे दिया कि सिफारिश करना चाह रही है। कहता नाम आपका ले रही है तो क्या करूँ? कहा लाओ। दिखाया तो आगे से वो थी। दिल तो मेरा चाह ना कि इसको मैं 2 पेनल्टीज भी लगा दूं, लेकिन फिर आई जस्ट यू नो नहीं किया ना मैंने। लेकिन वो 20 साल से उन्होंने मुझसे बात नहीं की। 20 साल बाद ना मैं उनका इतना करीबी दोस्त बन गया हूँ कि शायद उनके करीबी दोस्त भी मुझ पर आशिक है। यार फहीम से तो इम्पोर्टेंट आदमी कोई नहीं। और आप में कुछ और दोस्त भी हैं जो कि इस तरह का करते हैं, उनका नाम मैं नहीं लेता।
मेरे भी हो गए।
नहीं अनुष का तो मेरे साथ ये है ना कि बचपन से ही मुझे जानती हैं कि और मतलब
हाँ बचपन ही था
मैं ठीक। मैं ऑनेस्टली दिस बुक की पब्लिकेशन से लेकर फर्स्ट डे से लेकर ऑनेस्टली टेलिंग यू फ्रॉम द वेरी फर्स्ट डे व्हेन आई साइंड द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट आई स्पोक टू हर एंड शी सेड गो अहेड एंड देन द एडिटिंग प्रोसेस एंड देन एवरीथिंग शी इज ऑल अलोंग।
That's true.
I'm really indebted to her
Thank
in
you.
every way. And there was one person as well, other person who assisted in me drafting the novel. She's sitting over there. She is one of my gurus. Sakina, thank you very much. Okay. And
Sakina, can we see you? Okay, good.
Sakina was all the way with me in drafting that book, and I'm really thankful.
So, what do you hope the readers will take away from the book, and how do you think it will resonate with them?
That's important in a sense because I am getting reviews and personal messages from the readers off and on. One of the readers gave me a very poignant review of the book. She made a video of it as well, and she said that this book is resonating with me all day. It's up to them, 20th century literature, that how do you take them? How do you take your literature book and interact with it? There are many books which are being rejected. I have put the problem with you, and it's not a problem. It's an issue which your society is facing. And now if you are not thinking about it, it's your choice. There are issues like gender discrimination. There are issues of biradari system. There are issues of professionalism in this society. There is a big problem of having a very efficient civil service. Nepotism is there.
Red tape is.
Minorities issues, and then girls' education, which is very important. But people are just taking it in a very light manner. If you don't take it seriously, it will keep on happening. If you don't take education as a priority, it would keep on happening. The universities you are having, this is very important if you are all from academia, most of you are from academia. I am telling you, the universities which we are having are not making any mark. They are not coming up even to the benchmark of international universities. Our people, when they go outside, how their degrees are being treated. There is a reason for that. And the reason is that we are not giving the quality products. Research methodology, all of you must have written. I am seen and practice it. हमारा आपने और लोगों ने आप लोगों ने रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजीज के ऊपर पेपर लिखे हुए हैं कि जनाब इस पे मेरा पीएचडी हो जाता है. Then what is your PhD basically? That giving you a grade. ये 18 से 19 और 19 से 20 लग गया. यार ये 18, 19, 20 लेना है ना तो ब्यूरोक्रेट बन जाइए. Teaching is not for 18, 19, 20. I'm telling you very seriously. It's happening. Okay, how people are taking this thing. Research methodology started with this logical positivists, William Ockham and David Hume. How they came up with a thing that we will not accept anything apart from evidence. And if there is no evidence, we are not going to accept it. This translated into something very big in the Western civilization. We had great people like Bertrand Russell and then ultimately Albert Einstein. His theory of relativity. And his theory of relativity was a problem. People were not accepting it. despite the fact that he was being recognized as a great scientist of today. But people were scared, यार ये क्या कह रहा है आदमी, ये theory of relativity को बात जम नहीं रही है. And you know, he was given Nobel Prize not for theory of relativity. He was given Nobel for photoelectric effect. Because the society was not accepting it. But ultimately they produced Albert Einstein. Now you see what we are doing. हम क्या करते हैं, सबसे अच्छा लड़का मेरा ब्राइट क्या करेगा, डिप्टी कमिश्नर बन जाए, यही होगा ना, सबसे टॉप क्लास है, ये एसपी बन जाएगा,
डॉक्टर भी बन सकता,
डॉक्टर नहीं, डॉक्टर तो चलो बन गए तो कुछ कंट्रीब्यूट भी हो जाएगा, बट आपके मार्क जकरबर्ग किधर हैं, आपका स्टीव जॉब किधर है, वेयर आर दीज पीपल, योर जैक मा, these wonderful people, Albert Einstein, these type of scientists.
But we are not even producing Shakespeare's anymore, or Ghalib for that matter, or even Ahmed Faraz for that matter.
Faraz is there, Faraz died in 2008, but still I can see hope somewhere. Mohsen Hamid is good these days. I can say Mohsen Hamid is a good writer.
But again, Faheem, one thing I would say that some of these writers that we have, like who are Pakistan-based, like Mohsen Hamid or Kamla Shamsi, most of them are sitting and writing abroad. They are not sitting in Pakistan, and they will not even get published in Pakistan. We do not even like publishing good, real research in Pakistan.
Of course, it's happening. Yes.
Okay, I've come across research articles where a lot of serious issues are taken, and it was amazing. I was reading a research paper and thought, who published this? And it was published in a medical journal as opposed to a social sciences journal. I mean, they could get away there, but not in social sciences. Anyway, finally, because I'm just keeping an eye on the clock as well, my final question is that what are you working on next? Can you give us any hints about your upcoming project?
Rather, I should not, but okay, a bit of it. Okay, I'm working on my fiction, second fiction, but it's different from this one. No more of that much of civil service, but the character is very different. Asan, people blaming me, and then I could talk to Asan as well. It was easier to correlate with him. But Arthshare is a different man. My next character.
What's the name?
Arthshare. I really like that. Yeah. And I sketched him putting himself apart.
Okay.
He was there. Asan was near to me, but he's there. And I can see him. The female character is also very difficult to portray, but that would come in.
Right.
And you will come to me.
And of course, I'm not asking you the title as yet.
Sure.
So anyway, thank you so much for giving us such a lovely read. I will now open the floor for a discussion, and you are invited to ask Faheem questions.
Any question you people want to ask about the book, I'm here.
The book or the process of writing.
So how long did it take you to write this book?
It took me almost 10 years. Almost 10 years.
10 years. 10 years. Well, I have a counter question. Don't you change as people in 10 years? See, I remember Mughal-e-Azam बनाने में बड़ा time लगा था ना?
No, there was a reason.
आसिफ के पता नहीं 25 साल के 15 साल के कितने बनाए?
There was a reason for that. Now, because I was not taking it not seriously. I was having transfers and posting, kabhi Islamabad, kabhi Ahmedabad, and I would write off and on. I would just leave it for 6 months, 7 months, and then I would start again. If I would have started consistently and I would have done it consistently, I would have easily completed it. But honestly, at that time, I didn't think of even printing it. The printing thing, the publishing thing came in 2015 when my articles got published in Dawn. And then I seriously thought about it. I can do it. And within 3 years I did.
Right.
Yeah, please.
सर मेरा
सर नाम बता दे अपना.
हाँ नाम भी बता.
सर मेरा नाम एहतशामुल हक है, मैं उर्दू का स्टूडेंट हूँ इस्लामिक कॉलेज पेशावर. सर मेरा सवाल आपके राइटिंग स्किल के बारे में कि इनका असर आपके वालिद साहब से कितना रहा, क्योंकि हम उनसे मिलते हल्के में.
अच्छा.
सर उनसे मुलाकात होती है, तो सर उनका असर आप पे कितना?
जी, उनका असर बहुत ज़्यादा है मुझ पर. वो बहुत ज़्यादा मेरे फादर का इन्फ्लुएंस हम पे, ये सारा कुछ जो है, वो बहुत अच्छे रीडर हैं. मैंने उनको जो बचपन से देखा है, वो किताबों में ही उनको देखा है. वो खुद तो सिविल सर्वेंट थे, ऑफिसर थे इस्लामाबाद में. एंड हम उनके साथ जब बैठते थे तो ही वुड ऑलवेज बी टेलिंग मी थिंग्स उनके पास बुक्स पड़ी होती थी। मैं जब ये ड्रायन जितना मेरे बेटे जितना भी होता था तो वो कभी मुझे जोक की तरह नहीं लेते थे कि बच्चा है यार हाँ ये है, ही वुड टेल मी सीरियस अबू ये क्या पढ़ रहे हैं, तो वो बताएंगे मुझे किस किताब में क्या है, अपने आसान लफ्ज़ों में बता देंगे ये मैं अल्मानिक पढ़ रहा हूँ, ये हर साल रिलीज होती है ना, इसमें ये फैक्ट्स आते हैं ना, एंड देन एट माई लेवल ही वुड बी टेलिंग मी थिंग। और अगर वो जेन ऑस्टन का कुछ पढ़ रहे हैं या इवन वुदरिंग हाइट्स पढ़ रहे हैं, ये तमाम नॉवेल्स और ये तमाम पॉलिटिक्स के जो हिस्ट्री की बुक्स हैं उनका हिस्ट्री में स्पेशलाइजेशन है, और तमाम हिस्ट्री उन्होंने मुझे गपशप में बता दी थी। और जब मैं उस लेवल पे आया तो जब मैंने वो देखी तो वो चीज़ें मेरे लिए बहुत ईजियर थी। तो इन्फ्लुएंस बहुत ज़्यादा है मेरा वालिद साहब का, इसमें कोई शक नहीं। जी यानी
अच्छा जी, कुछ हम भी कह देंगे
सर गए सर मैं
अच्छा I know फहीम से मेरा नाम तारिक जबार है, I work as a doctor. I know Faheem since long time. We have been discussing these things as well. But I would say that it takes a complete genius to write a book, and that also in the language which is not your mother tongue. I said complete genius because every one of you is a genius here. But the difference is that like everyone has an idea, everyone has an emotion, passion. But to combine everything together and put words and the right appropriate words and then complete a book, I think is very ingenious, in my opinion. I would like to ask just one simple question from him. I will say a few other things, but later on.
Sir.
That what was your main stimulus to write? Was it your inner peace or inner turmoil?
You can.
Let him answer, but it's usually turmoil.
Okay, fine, sir. You can say that, sir. This is true. I won't deny.
What, the peace or the turmoil?
The turmoil. If the turmoil would not have been there, I would not have been writing. I was not satisfied with what I am doing. I should be writing this thing. The writing remained a passion, and I was not doing it. And then it was a turmoil, of course, for which I had to write. There's no escaping it. But yeah.
Just adding to the same question, because you mentioned it's the turmoil, right? So my question to you is that then it must have, I may be wrong, but I'm asking you, then it must have been that since childhood you had something in you to write.
You can say that.
Yeah.
You can say that.
Because I feel that way.
बचपन से
And
Charles Dickens पढ़ रहा है.
And I haven't written anything like this, but I write poetry. I think Anusha said.
Yeah, I told him.
Yeah. So it was there when I was in class 3. I knew it was there.
Yes.
So it must have been with you.
It was there because I used to read a lot, and the real thing was, let me put it honestly, like my son is there, Ryan is there, Alian is there. Both of them, they are good students as well. They score good grades, but at the same time, in a very clandestine manner, they come over to me and tell me, "Daddy, we don't like school," and I say, "Same here." You know, I don't like. I never liked the school. I used to hate school, and I would tell my mother कि अम्मी मुझे आप स्कूल भेजती हैं, मैं अपने बच्चों को स्कूल नहीं भेजूंगा, आप मेरे पे बड़ा जुल्म करती हैं. Honestly, मुझे पढ़ाई में कोई मसला नहीं था. I was a good student. I used to get good grades. लेकिन ये सुबह उठ के ये फटीक करके जो जाना होता है और ये सारी चीज़ें होती हैं ना, ये मुझे बड़ा तंग करती थी कि यार
कभी बीमार होने की एक्टिंग किया?
नहीं, मैंने एक्टिंग नहीं की, मैं डायरेक्ट कह देता था कि नहीं जाना हो, बस ये ख़त्म हो. नहीं, इसमें एक चीज़ थी, मैं आपको बताऊं, ये जो था ना राइटिंग, इसके साथ मैं रिलेट करता हूँ, ये बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है. ये मुझे स्केप मिलता था इससे. ये जो बुक्स होती थी ना, ये हमारी लाइब्रेरी होती थी. PF वेस्ट कलाला में मैं था, और फिर कुछ अर्सा PF शाइन कैंप में शुरू के सालों में यहाँ पे, और फिर सारी एजुकेशन मेरी वहाँ पे हुई इस्लामाबाद में, बाद में चकलाला एयरबेस में. तो हमारी बहुत खूबसूरत लाइब्रेरी होती थी. तो वो क्लास से जब छुटकारा मिलता था ना, लोग कहीं जाते थे, मैं वो लाइब्रेरी चला जाता था. वो बड़ी कोजी सी, सारी कारपेटेड थी, आज से बड़े से पहले की बात कर रहा हूँ. तो वो बुक्स वहाँ से मैं जब लेके पढ़ता तो आई यूज्ड टू लव दैट. और फिर मैंने वहाँ पे थोड़ा बहुत अपना वो भी दिखाया कि मैं क्विज कंपटीशंस और राइटिंग में था. तो वो मुझे लेवरेज देते थे कि अच्छा यार एक क्लास से छुट्टी कर ले, इसने कंपटीशन करना है ना, तो ये पढ़ लेगा यहाँ पे बैठ के. तो वो मैं लाइब्रेरी में स्केप किया करता था. मेरे 6th क्लास में मेलोडी में होती थी ये ब्रिटिश काउंसिल. इट वाज देयर इस्लामाबाद में, मेलोडी में है, पता नहीं अब कौन सा सेक्टर. तो मेरे फादर इस्लामाबाद पोस्टेड थे, तो मैं स्कूल से छुट्टी करता था. ये 6th क्लास में मैं था, तो मेरी वो कार्ड बना हुआ था मेरा ब्रिटिश काउंसिल का. तो आई वुड स्पेंड अ होल डे देयर. और वो 1 महीने के लिए 4 टिकट्स पे 4 किताबें मिलती थी, यहाँ पे भी थी पेशावर में, तो वो मैं लेके आता था एंड इट वुड सर्व एज एन एस्केप कि यार वो फटीक से जान छोटी है ना कि बस ठीक है नहीं अब स्कूल नहीं जाते, सो दिस यू कैन से, बट व्हेन अल्टीमेटली आई एंजॉयड इट बिकेम समथिंग एल्स, देन इट टर्न्ड आउट टू बी पैशन कि यही सब कुछ है। ये बात देर से समझ आई कि स्कूल वाले भी आपको वही बात पढ़ाने की कोशिश करें जरा डिफरेंट अंदाज से।
Faheem, I have an observation. I was happy to hear that how your father influenced you. You just mentioned your mother, you mentioned your sons. What about your wife? You have not mentioned her contribution.
नहीं, आई डोंट थिंक सो। जिसे कहते हैं कि इनका कंट्रीब्यूशन बहुत बड़ा है, मैं इनको इसको डिनाई नहीं कर सकता। तो जिक्र मैं इसलिए नहीं करता कि जिन चीज़ों से इंसान को खौफ आता है तो उनके बारे में जिक्र करता फिर मैं आगे डरा हुआ बैठा हूँ उनसे।
We must credit her for this. No married man is free enough to write novels.
A bureaucrat.
A bureaucrat.
Pakistan का हाल देखो.
Charles Dickens was married having 12 children. And
वो आपने टर्मोइल का भी कुछ जिक्र किया था।
As a moderator, I have to stop it.
So you're free enough to write.
No, this is getting very gender.
Can I ask one more question?
जी sir.
Do you feel as a writer, as a genius, threatened by the current trend of rising artificial intelligence?
This is important. No, I don't, sir. Honestly, I don't. It is very easy to detect artificial intelligence. It is very easy. You can create a novel, but you cannot inspire people. उसको कहना कि AI को ChatGPT को ये लिख के दे देगा, इतना फेक लिखता है वो, उसको ह्यूमनाइज करने के फिर अलग टूल्स होते हैं। अच्छा फिर ह्यूमनाइज करते भी हैं तो मजा नहीं आता।
रीडर को पता चलता है,
उसी वक्त पता लग जाता है आपको। I am not threatened by it. हाँ, but AI is a great tool. It's a great tool for researchers and it's a helper in a way that you can polish your writing, you can go for better research, and आने वाले दिनों में I would say the things of research would be changed. Now writing something like a research paper would become redundant. वो जी वो मैंने जी footnotes बना दी, वो करके देता है आपको।
थोड़ा सा मैं इसमें ऐड करूँगी, this is particularly for all the students who are sitting here. Please always try to be above AI, all right? Because as teachers, one, up to Turnitin वगैरह सब में AI के plagiarism checks हैं. दूसरा ये है कि AI की बहुत mechanical language है, एक बड़ा set pattern है. तीसरी बात ये है कि after all, I mean, yes, ये time है, AI का है, सब कुछ है. लेकिन I think being humans, AI में कोई creativity नहीं है जो आप लोगों में है. तो इसलिए आप help ज़रूर लें. जैसे जब हम स्टूडेंट्स होते थे आप लोग, अब मुझे नहीं पता कि क्या ट्रेंड है उनका, तो किताब महल मिला करती थी, मुझे नहीं पता अब मिलती है कि नहीं मिलती। तो उसमें जो थोड़े बच्चे होते थे जरा लेजी होते थे वो उसको जू का तू इस्तेमाल करते थे, जो जरा थोड़े होशियार होते थे ना वो जरा उससे लेके इधर उधर अपने के नया एक बना दिया करते थे। सो यू जस्ट नीड टू बी अबव ऑल काइंड्स ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी व्हेन इट कम्स टू रिसर्च। और प्लीज AI को ट्रस्ट ना करें, उसके रेफरेंसेस को ट्रस्ट ना करें, उसके रेफरेंसेस ठीक नहीं होते हैं। इसमें सिर्फ एक छोटी, क्योंकि फहीम साहब ने रिसर्च की बात की, मुझे एक असाइनमेंट में मैं थी और वो मुझे करनी थी और एक मुझे फ्रेमवर्क इस्तेमाल करना था, और उस फ्रेमवर्क में वो एक पॉलिसी थी हमारी, अभी गवर्नमेंट ने अडॉप्ट नहीं थी, कि उसको मैं देखना था कि कितनी जेंडर सेंसिटिव है कि नहीं है। तो मैंने उससे कहा फलानी पॉलिसी, वो जरा इस रिपोर्ट पे, अब दोनों चीजें ऑनलाइन अवेलेबल थी और AI कैन ओनली एक्सेस थिंग्स दैट आर अवेलेबल ऑनलाइन। तो मैंने कहा जरा मुझे जरा बताओ तो सही कि पॉलिसी कितनी जेंडर फ्रेंडली है, सॉर्ट ऑफ यूजिंग दैट पर्टिकुलर फ्रेमवर्क। मैं वो एनालिसिस को पहले कर चुकी थी, मैंने पूरी पॉलिसी भी पढ़ी हुई थी, फ्रेमवर्क में एनालिसिस भी मैं कर चुकी। आई जस्ट वांटेड टू चेक कि इसकी और मेरे एनालिसिस टोटली गलत एनालिसिस, टोटली गलत एनालिसिस। सो बी वेरी केयरफुल विद AI। एक फाइनल क्वेश्चन मेरा ये है फहीम, सो हाउ डू यू सी योरसेल्फ, a writer among bureaucrats or a bureaucrat among writers?
Oh, this is tricky. This is tricky. जो ये मुस्तफ़ा ज़ैदी के बारे में ये कहते हैं कि मैं वहाँ पे जाता हूँ तो जो ब्यूरोक्रेट्स हैं मुझे अफसर तस्लीम करने से इनकार कर देते हैं, और जब राइटर्स में जाता हूँ तो वो मुझे ब्यूरोक्रेट्स करने से तस्लीम करने से इनकार. This is tricky, but you know, again, the things have changed. I would say the people are just appreciating it more in our civil service as well. People are more appreciating it. There are other civil servants who are writing it. अभी recently उमर शाहिद हामिद लिख रहे हैं और authors लिख रहे हैं. So it is good enough कि अब अच्छा कर रहे हैं. और लेकिन शायर के दरमियान जो है तो आई वुड से कि मेरा वो हल्का अरबाब शायरों में या अदीबों में अभी इतना ज़्यादा है. आई एम नॉट इनटू इट दैट मच. थोड़ी बहुत बात होती है. अभी कुछ दिन पहले आसिफ नवाज साहब के साथ उसके ऊपर इन टच हुआ. मुझसे जूनियर ऑफिसर और लेकिन अच्छे ऑफिसर हैं. उनसे इन टच हुआ मैं इसके ऊपर सोशल मीडिया पे. लेकिन ज़्यादा इंटरेक्शन नहीं है क्योंकि मैं ज़्यादा स्टे एट होम पर्सन हूँ. कुछ ज़्यादा फिरता नहीं हूँ, ज़्यादा सोशल नहीं हूँ और घर पे ही रहता हूँ ज़्यादा.
Thank you so much. आप सबका बहुत शुक्रिया. The only thing I would like to add that when I got hold of the book, the name Faheem Sikandar looked so good. I mean, I was so familiar with the name, but the name on the title cover looked so good that it brought a smile to my face. ये मैं असलियत बता रही हूँ. That for having a friend, you know, who's a novelist and he's a writer and he's a friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.